Warning. A 6-year-old dies after falling into an overflowing irrigation canal in Erukul village of Tamil Nadu. Flood alert issued in 5 Tamil Nadu districts. Prime Minister Modi arrives in Indonesia to attend the G20 summit. He will formally take over India's G20 chairmanship for 2023. A total of 45 hours, 20 engagements. First face-to-face meeting between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping at the G20 summit. 2 world leaders meet for 3 hours, discuss Russia-Ukraine war and Taiwan tussle. India's retail inflation cools to 6.77%, but still above RBI's comfort limit. Latest inflation number in line with RBI governor's prediction that it would be lower than 7%. And Cristiano Ronaldo to be fined £1 million by Manchester United for a controversial interview in which he blasts club manager Erik ten Hag, Manchester United's board and the standards of the club. But we start tonight with a murder in the national capital that has left the whole country stunned in disbelief with the sheer gruesomeness of it. A young woman was murdered by her lover for pressuring him to get married. Aaftab Amin Poonawala allegedly strangled Shraddha, chopped her into at least 35 pieces, stored the body parts in a fridge and disposed of the body parts over many days. The murder allegedly took place in May, but the case has been cracked now by the Delhi police. It's our top story tonight.
A chilling murder that's keeping India up at night. A woman butchered by her lover in the national capital. The body chopped into at least 35 pieces, we're told. The butchered pieces of Shraddha kept in this fridge for as many as 18 days. Later, the chopped body parts of Shraddha are scattered across Delhi. This is how Aaftab Amin Poonawala allegedly killed his live-in partner and girlfriend, Shraddha Walkar. The reason behind the gruesome murder? She was allegedly pressuring him into getting married. The couple would often fight over this. Aaftab and Shraddha fell in love when they met at a common workplace in Mumbai. As her family was against their interfaith relationship, the couple eloped to Delhi, where they began living in South Delhi's Mehrauli area. Shraddha's family was aware of her whereabouts, but when they noticed that the updates had stopped, her father visited Delhi to check on her. When he was unable to establish contact with his daughter, Shraddha's father lodged a police complaint in November. Aaftab, arrested on Monday, allegedly committed the murder in May this year.
फादर ने मुंबई में कंप्लेंट कराई है, तो उनको मालूम चला कि लास्ट लोकेशन लड़की की दिल्ली थी, तो हमारे पास इस कंप्लेंट को लेके फॉरवर्ड करने आई। उसके घर पे जाके उसको मिल लिया, वहाँ पे घर पकड़ लिया। उसने बताया कि लड़की को उसने मार दिया था। लड़की का गला दबाया पहले, फिर लड़की बॉडी डिस्पोज ऑफ कर दी। थोड़ा उसने टाइम गैप पे बॉडी के टुकड़े फेंके, अलग-अलग जगह पे टुकड़े फेंके।
The police say Aaftab continued living in the same flat in Mehrauli, where Shraddha's body parts were allegedly preserved in a fridge, like nothing happened. The police have filed a murder case against Aaftab after taking him into custody. Only a few bones have so far been recovered in the police search. A hunt is still on to find the rest of Shraddha's chopped, dismembered and scattered body parts. With Arvind Ojha, Akshay Dongre and Rahul Gautam in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what would drive someone to commit such a horrific crime? Joining me now is Dr. Rajat Mitra. He's a criminal psychologist. I appreciate you joining us, Dr. Mitra. What explains someone doing what Aaftab is accused of? It seems to be the most kind of bestial crime that anyone could commit. What drives someone to do it?
Thank you, Rajdeep. This is a kind of a crime which we call organized sexual homicide, in which often the offender feels a sense of having carried out a justice against the victim. And as we know from such crimes that, there is often a deep sense of fantasy that that pervades before the person actually commits the crime. So in this situation, I mean, there are two things that I would say from my experience as a forensic clinical psychologist is that he fantasized about killing her. He fantasized about ending her life. He was an explosive personality somewhere inside. There was a lot of rage and anger that was, there in him. And the precipitating factor was probably some argument that took place between them. And the asphyxiation nature of the death, it shows that somewhere it was, these kind of deaths are more towards justice, that, I'm doing justice to you because you have wronged me. So
but justice involving cutting a body into pieces, it seems almost that this is someone who's crossed the edge and demonstrated a kind of behavior that defies all rationality.
Yeah, it's a rationality for criminals, as we call it. I mean, it's like a kind of a blitz attack followed by cool, organized way of disposing of the body over a period of time. Until and unless there is a deep fantasy preceding the act, such kind of crimes are not possible. So it was something where he deliberated, he thought it over, and therefore he killed her. And also another thing that I would say is that often what we see in such kind of crimes is that he was a chef. He was probably using knives, and probably in a state of rage when he would be using his knife, he would be thinking of her, chopping her up, and probably there the fantasy started. I mean, this is something that from the psychology of crimes, like this, we know that the plan starts much before. It is not something which is impulsive and takes over.
So is it driven by pure rage? Are you saying that this would be driven by pure rage that someone has? Or is there, does it reflect a complete psychological breakdown of that individual?
It is not just, I mean, these people are deeply angry inside, but there is psychologically much more complex than that. They feel very inadequate inside. They feel a lack of control over their partner, over the person they are living with. So it's a combination of that. So there is an explosive personality, someone who's very angry inside. And anger is not the only reason. There is also a very, perverted, neural circuitry, a different kind of mindset, which gets excited with blood, with goriness, with, this kind of an act. It is not possible for a normal human being. I mean, it's only someone with a deeply explosive personality with a kind of a, distorted thinking who could do this.
Right. Dr. Mitra, I appreciate your joining us. This is obviously a very deeply troubling story for anyone really to even contemplate what has happened, and our thoughts really are with Shraddha's family above all else. But one hopes that the harshest possible punishment is given to Aaftab if it is proven that he indeed was responsible for this dastardly crime. Thank you very much, Dr. Mitra, for joining me here and giving us a sense of the mindset of such a killer that Aaftab apparently was. Let's turn from there to our big political story. It's coming from Gujarat, because today was the last day for Gujarat's candidates to submit their nomination papers for the first phase of the state legislative assembly elections. Gujarat, remember, goes to elections in two phases, December 1 and December 5th. Saurashtra is an area which goes to the polls in this first phase, along with South Gujarat. Rivaba Jadeja, on your extreme left, BJP candidate from Jamnagar North, is the wife of cricketer Ravindra Jadeja. She's among the star candidates who filed their nominations today. Her husband was accompanying her in the first phase. Out of the total 182 assembly constituencies, 89 will go to the polls.
सोशल सेवा का जो एक्सपीरियंस है वो मेरे इस फील्ड में, राजनीति का जो मेरा सफर शुरू होने जा रहा है, उसमें डेफिनेटली मुझे ये एक्सपीरियंस है वो डेफिनेटली है।
आपके हस्बैंड भी आपको सपोर्ट दे रहे हैं इस वक्त, रविंद्र सिंह जाडेजा, उनकी तरफ से भी सोशल मीडिया पे एक मैसेज दिया गया है आपके लिए।
जी यस एज ए हस्बैंड, एज ए मेरे कोर जो पिलर है, तो डेफिनेटली लाइक वो ऑलवेज सपोर्ट मुझे दे रहे हैं।
एक सवाल ये भी है कि उनकी सिस्टर भी यहाँ से कांग्रेस पार्टी में है, क्या आप कड़ा कंपटीशन घर के अंदर भी देखती हैं?
नहीं, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सामने कोई कंपटीशन नहीं होता है।
सर, पहले तो बताइए कि क्रिकेट की इनिंग्स आप खेलते हैं, पॉलिटिकल इनिंग्स आपकी वाइफ खेलेंगी, कैसा लग रहा है?
बहुत ही अच्छा लग रहा है कि मैं अपनी वाइफ के लिए आया हूं और उसके लिए मेहनत कर रहा हूं और वो भी बहुत एक्साइटेड है कि उसकी लाइफ का एक चैप्टर नया स्टार्ट हो रहा है।
बल्लेबाजी और क्रिकेट के एक्सपीरियंस से जो आपने सीखा है, तो क्या आप कोई टिप्स देना चाहेंगे रिवाबा को कि किस तरीके से पॉलिटिकल इनिंग्स खेल?
देखिए, ये T20 का ज़माना है तो डिफेंस का तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं है, तो पॉजिटिव और एटीट्यूड अपना पॉजिटिव रखना होगा और जितना आगे बढ़े उतना जितना वो सीख सके ये फील्ड में आके जितना लोगों से सीख सके।
But more controversy is over another candidate, Payal Kukrani. You may not have heard of her, but her name is drawing a lot of attention in Gujarat ever since it was revealed that she is among the BJP's first list of candidates to contest this year's Gujarat Assembly polls. Now, Payal is the daughter of one of the Naroda Patia massacre convicts, Manoj Kukrani. This was the massacre in the 2002 Gujarat riots that saw more than 90 people dead. Now, the father is out on bail and is actively helping her daughter in the election campaign. The opposition is calling the BJP's decision to give her a ticket an award for rioters. Take a look.
વિરાટ જનસભાને સંબોધિત કરવા માટે આદરણીય
It's election season and one name in the BJP's list of candidates in Gujarat has sparked off a huge controversy. The Saffron Party has fielded Dr. Payal Kukrani, daughter of a 2002 riot convict from the Naroda seat. Not just that, the biggest shocker. Payal's father, Manoj Kukrani, is a lifetime convict in the Naroda Patia massacre, currently out on bail on health grounds, managing his daughter's campaign. He has been out on bail multiple times since his conviction. A former BJP leader, Manoj, is helping his daughter with the campaign, seen actively canvassing, managing her campaign. But the reason for bail was ill health. Payal, currently serving as an anesthetist in an Ahmedabad hospital, is confident of a win.
में जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस आया, जो मेरे माता पिता का, मेरे पापा भी 40 साल से पॉलिटिक्स में, उन्होंने अपना पूरा ज़िंदगी दिया हुआ है। मेरे माताश्री अभी काउंसलर हैं, तो उनका इतना एक्सपीरियंस, और जितने भी आप देख सकते हैं हमारे घर में जितने भी कार्यकर्ता हैं और जितने भी हमारे समाज और जितना भी नरोडा की कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में जितने भी लोग हैं, सारे हमारे साथ हैं। सबका साथ, सबका एक्सपीरियंस आगे लेके हम चलने वाले हैं और बस वही नीति जो डोर टू डोर मैंने आपको कही, वो नीति से ही हम आगे बढ़ेंगे।
While Payal's mother, Reshma, is a sitting BJP corporator in Ahmedabad, the nonchalance of banking on her father's tainted legacy, not lost in a political arena, fueled with a steady dose of polarization. The Congress is calling Payal's nomination a reward for rioters, questioning how a riot convict's daughter can be the BJP candidate. Moreover, a lifetime convict allegedly on bail over health grounds is seen openly handling his daughter's political debut.
नरोडा से बीजेपी ने पायल कुकरानी को टिकट दी है, जो कि नरोडा पार्टी के जो कॉन्विक्ट है मनोज कुकरानी, इनकी बेटी है। क्या कहेंगे इसके बारे में, कांग्रेस की क्या प्रतिक्रिया?
देखिए, जब भी इस तरह की कोई बात आती है तो आप हमेशा पाएंगे कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऐसे लोगों को टिकट देते हुए मिलती है, चाहे वो जिस समय पर 2002 के दंगे हों, चाहे बाकी सब चीज़ें रहे हों, चाहे वो बिल्किस बानो के जो लोग थे जिन्होंने वहाँ पर वो जब जेल से छूट कर आए तो उनको जिस तरह से मिठाई खिलाई गई। भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चाल चरित्र और चेहरा ही ऐसा है कि जितने दागी और इस तरह के लोग होते हैं उनको संरक्षण देना।
The 2002 Naroda Patia massacre saw killings of 97 people. Payal's father, Manoj Kukrani, was amongst 32 convicted in 2012 for being part of the killer mob. Politics is a strange landscape, where the infamy or the taint of being a convicted murderer who actively took part in a communal riot is rewarded 20 years later. With Saurabh Vaktania in Ahmedabad, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what explains the BJP's decision to give a ticket to someone who's a convicted rioter and their kin, allowing the rioter to campaign for his daughter? Is winnability simply the sole criterion in Gujarat and indeed every election now in this country? Has a wrong precedent been set by the BJP? Should an attempt be made to shun all those who might have anything to do with crime? Supriya Srinath is the Congress's spokesperson and Sanju Verma is the BJP spokesperson. To you, Supriya Srinath, the argument could well be made that why should the sins of the father be heaped on the daughter? She has every right to contest the election, and if the BJP thinks that she is the best candidate they have for Naroda Patia, then so be it. Can it be made into an issue? Tomorrow someone would say that why should Lalu Prasad's son get a ticket when his father is convicted?
Fair point, and I will answer that with a counter question. So you are saying that the convict of the Naroda Patia, where 97 people were killed, is out on bail on health ground, actively campaigning for his daughter, and he's seen in video after video. He's actively campaigning for the daughter. The daughter on your channel, I think in the report, she was quoted as saying that her father's legacy has to be taken forward, and which is why she's in the electoral foray. I just want to understand which legacy is she particularly referring to. The kith and kin of the male convict of 2002 Gujarat riots, Naroda Patia, is well being given tickets. I have nothing against the girl, but the legacy that she wants to take forward, yes, I have serious objections to that. I also have serious objections, and if I may finish in the next 10 seconds on this issue, about the messaging that one is seeing as far as the Gujarat elections are concerned. C.K. Raulji, the guy who said that 11 rapists who were, let gone free were sanskaris. He
in the Bilkis Bano case.
And he was one of the people who asked for their remission. That's also fine. So what is the political messaging I really want to understand that the BJP wants to give in Gujarat? Or for that matter, for the rest of this country, because this is not the first time, Rajdeep. I come from Uttar Pradesh, and Kuldeep Singh Sengar's wife was their mayor candidate till a lot of hue and cry was raised, and then her name was removed. She has actively campaigned in the UP elections for the BJP with pictures of both the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister on the posters, blessed by the BJP guys. People have gone to meet Kuldeep Singh Sengar while he's serving a lifetime. What are we talking about? So I really want to understand what political messaging is there.
Let me put that to Sanju Verma. Sanju Verma, what is the political message being sent out when the daughter of someone who has been convicted for one of Gujarat's worst massacres gets the Naroda Patia ticket? What is the message sent out when a C.K. Raoji gets the Godhra ticket, someone who called the killers and the rapists in the Bilkis Bano case as sanskari? What is the message being sent out? Do you believe, are you telling me Naroda Patia, no one else was good enough to get a BJP ticket? Or is the attempt being made somewhere subliminally to send out the message that we are all okay with what happened in 2002?
Rajdeep, you asked me a question. Now please allow me a rebuttal. You know, this is a sensitive issue, but let truth be told. First and foremost, Payal Kukrani is a reputed anesthetist. Her mother, Reshma Kukrani, is a BJP councillor. Both Reshma and Payal have done a lot of work in Western Ahmedabad from the place where she has been given a ticket. I ask you a simple question. When there is nepotism, when there is favoritism, people say, "Arey, because X's father is a politician, the son or daughter has been placated with a ticket." Since we all agree that you should not get a ticket only because your father is a councillor or your mother is a MLA or your grandfather was a MP, by the same logic, Payal Kukrani should not be denied a ticket because her father Manoj Kukrani has been convicted, though of course there's a petition pending final judgment in the case in the Supreme Court. I want to ask you one thing, Rajdeep. You agree that a massacre is a heinous crime? I agree on that count as well. But is rape any lesser heinous than what happened in Godhra, or when 59 young women and children largely were burnt alive in the Sabarmati Express? I ask you a simple question. When Mamata Banerjee laughed off earlier this year the Hansakhali gang rape as a case of a love affair gone wrong, did Rajdeep Sardesai even once question Mamata Banerjee, a lady chief minister at that, why did you mock the Hansakhali victim? Now we all know that in 1975 we had the infamous emergency under Indira Gandhi for 21 long months when democracy was shown the door, Article 19 was shown the door, Article 21 was shown the door. 6.2 million forced sterilizations happened under the long nose of Indira Gandhi.
But I thought you were a party with a difference. You know, the fact is every time you use... you justify... 1 minute. No, 1 minute, ma'am, now. The daughter of Mr. Kukrani has every right to contest. But when her father, who's convicted in one of Ahmedabad's worst massacres, is campaigning for her, what's the message?
Get me on the debate or allow me my time, Rajdeep Sardesai. May I finish? May I please finish? I'm asking you very politely.
Answer my question. You're a party with a difference, I thought.
May I finish? I said. I do not want to be lectured, Rajdeep. I did not heckle the Congress panelists. Now please let me have my say. I think that's only fair for somebody who calls himself a neutral journalist. Please, I beseech you, let me finish and make my point. Now when Indira Gandhi ne democracy ki dhajjiyan ura di in 1975 for 21 long months, by your logic, Indira Gandhi should never have come back into active politics again. But did she? Yes. Now Rajiv Gandhi, after the anti-Sikh, one of the most horrific genocides in post-independent India in 1984, what did he say? जब बड़ा पेड़ हिलता है तो बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है तो धरती थोड़ी सी हिल जाती है. Now tell me one thing. Rajiv Gandhi undermined and mocked close to 30,000 Sikhs who were butchered with tied around their necks and burnt alive. Did that stop Rajiv Gandhi from pursuing an active career in politics? The Sukanya Singh gang rape case is still mired in obfuscation. Has that ever stopped Rahul Gandhi from pursuing active politics?
There is nothing. We must be very careful with alternative facts, ma'am. There is not this Sukanya case and all are not cases that are proven. Here is someone convicted of a massacre. Please don't mix issues. Please don't mix issues, ma'am. You seem to be suggesting that because something was done in...
Rajdeep,
are you a party with a difference? 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 Yes or no?
Are you a journalist or you are a Congress spokesperson?
I am a journalist. You are used to stooges of the BJP asking you questions. That's why you don't like it. That's your problem. And I will continue to ask the questions to all. Producer, no, ma'am. You don't have to personalize it. I asked you a question, you don't have an answer. Are you a party with a difference? Yes or no?
Let me finish. You have a bad habit of interrupting.
Are you a party? No, you cannot monopolize the conversation. I asked you a question, you don't want to answer it. Are you a party with a difference?
Okay, I agree we are a party with a difference, but just tell me the answer to one question, because I know you are, for all that people say, you are very thick-skinned, and that is something that we all like about you. We all know that after Narendra Modi came to power in 2014, after so many years, there was an SIT formed and Sajjan Kumar, the chief perpetrator of the anti-Sikh 1984 genocide, was sent to the jail. Now tell me one thing, Rajdeep, did anyone from the Congress or you ever ask why was Sajjan Kumar's son, Jag Parvesh Kumar, given a ticket to contest from Sangam Vihar in Delhi? Why was Kamal Nath, who has received scathing criticism for the 1984 Sikh genocide, his son Nakul Nath was given an MP ticket from Chindwara?
Okay, there is a difference between someone who's... The Sajjan Kumar example, or it can be used, but Supriya Srinath respond. You see, Supriya Srinath, this is the problem with politics today, because morality now is so low that every time I ask a question to BJP, they will remind me what happened during Congress times, that many of those who are allegedly involved in the 84 Sikh riots continued to occupy posts of prominence in the Congress. More recently, Jagdish Titler, who was accused at the time, not convicted, is back as a member of your body, of your election body for the Delhi elections. Is that something that, in a way, equates it all? As I said, Lalu Prasad Yadav convicted, Tejasvi contest elections.
So Rajdeep, let me just step back for a minute, and I'm not particularly shocked, but I'm rather depressed and sad to hear my co-panelist. Here is a man who's accused of a massacre. No less than 97 people died. He is out on health grounds on bail. He's not an accused. He's a convict. He is busy campaigning. There are various channels that have shown pictures of him campaigning. His daughter on your channel says, I'm here to take my father's legacy forward. Also remember, she's a new person in the fray. A sitting MLA was denied a ticket. Thawani Behan Khubchand was denied a ticket from Naroda so that this lady could contest. I have no objections to her contesting. I have objections, again, I go back to say, when she quotes, I'm here to take my father's legacy forward. I want to ask a counter question, because you spoke of morality in public life. What morality can the BJP talk about? The BJP keeps Ajay Mishra Taini, the father of the main accused in the Lakhimpur massacre, as Minister of State for Home Affairs. Please don't speak in between.
Please keep Sanju Verma's voice cannot be heard over the others. Yeah, go ahead, finish up.
So, what is the moral compass that they are guided by? Ajay Mishra Taini continues to be the Union State Home Minister, despite the fact that he tried to defend his son to the very last day and kept lying that he was not present there. What is the moral that they will come up with? C.K. Raulji was a part of the advisory committee that wanted a remission of those 11 rapists. The remission was actually given a green signal by Amit Shah here in New Delhi. In 2 weeks' time, we all know that Amit Shah gave the green light to this remission. 11 rapists walked free. And please let me remind you here what happened. A 3-year-old child, her head was smashed into the wall. A 2-day-old baby was killed, who still continues to be called unnamed child in the charge sheet. So let's not get carried away. I really think what is happening in Gujarat in the name of a party with a difference is really making a difference to people's lives. That's all that they can come up with.
Okay,
and remember, this is not another constituency. They have fielded his daughter in Naroda, where he was found, where he was convicted for a 97 people massacre. That is the real narrative.
Can I give a final? Ma'am, you've had your word. You've said it. Let me get Sanju Verma. I will ask you one last time. Wasn't the BJP supposed to be a party with a difference? Therefore, why not just accept that when it comes to elections, election ke liye kuch bhi chalega. As long as someone can win, you don't really give, it's not about giving character certificates.
Rajdeep, first and foremost, BJP को Rajdeep Sardesai से या सुप्रिया श्रीनेत से integrity, character, morality के certificates की जरूरत नहीं है. Point number 2, I repeat that if somebody's father being convicted is reason enough for the son or daughter to not get a ticket, I want to ask just one question. 1947 में partition में कितने लोग displaced हुए? 20 million. How many people died a horrific death? 2 million. All because of the unfettered ambition of Pandit Nehru, जिसकी आज anniversary Congress 1984 anti-Sikh genocide. Nobody from the Gandhi family has officially apologized.
I'm going to stop it there. If we are going to go back to 1947 in 2022, then we've got something seriously wrong with what is happening in our politics of today. Whataboutery out of control. But for now, Sanju Verma, Supriya Shrinet, I leave it to political parties to decide what is the basis on which you give election tickets. Is it at all a character certificate in any matter? Appreciate you joining us. Since Sanju Verma spoke about Pandit Nehru, today is Nehru's anniversary, and typically a political war has erupted over his legacy. None of the top BJP leaders or ministers were seen today at a ceremony in Parliament to pay tribute to India's first Prime Minister. Union Law Minister Kiran Rijiju continued to level many charges against Nehru over his handling of the Kashmir issue. The Congress, meanwhile, well, they continue to believe that Nehru must be given his due. Whichever way you look at it, Nehru seems caught between the hero worshipping by the Congress and the demonization by the BJP. Take a look.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru finds himself in the eye of a political storm nearly 6 decades after his death. On Monday, members of Parliament led by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla paid tributes to Nehru on his birth anniversary. While many top Congress leaders, including Sonia Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge, were present, the absence of any big face from Narendra Modi government was conspicuous. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor later took to Twitter asking if bipartisanship had become extinct. The alleged snub comes even as the Modi government blames Nehru for the Kashmir dispute. Union Law Minister Kiran Rijiju on Nehru's birthday once again claimed that Kashmir King Hari Singh was ready to accede to India in 1946, but Nehru delayed it. Citing Nehru's speeches and writings, Rijiju argued that Nehru delayed the accession to help his friend Sheikh Abdullah.
When Nehruji's personal relationship with Sheikh Abdullah is very well known, and Nehruji in his own words have said that the interest of the Sheikh Abdullah has to be taken into account, and the administrative reforms should be done before or prior to the accession of Kashmir. All this leads to one single conclusion, that Nehruji had his own agenda, which he put it above the national interest.
The Congress was quick to hit back at the BJP.
There could be issues here and there, but one should understand, India under Nehru, when Nehru became the Prime Minister, it was a country which had just got independence. It was a country which was ruled by a foreign rule for more than 100 years. It was a country which was partitioned, and there were so many issues of partition. He did whatever he could do, and still we are a balanced and a stable country, stable economy because of Nehru.
Nehru is hailed as the builder of modern, democratic and secular India by many intellectuals and historians. From Bhakra Nangal Dam to IITs to Bhabha Atomic Research Centre, many modern edifices of science and technology were opened during his tenure. While shades of Nehru's often criticized non-aligned foreign policy is visible even today in the Indian government's handling of the Ukraine war, he is accused of bungling the China policy, which led to a defeat in the 1962 Sino-Indian War. Now his tackling of Kashmir's accession is being put under scrutiny by the ruling BJP. Bureau Report, India Today.
So the big questions, is Jawaharlal Nehru being demonized? Is the BJP trying to dismantle Nehru's legacy? Has the Congress deified Nehru? Just some of the issues we are raising. Joining me now, Swapan Dasgupta, former BJP MP, and Mridula Mukherjee, historian and former director of the Nehru Memorial. Swapan Dasgupta, do you believe that the Modi government is consciously, if not demonizing, certainly trying to diminish Nehru's legacy? Would you agree with the charge that the Congress is making today?
You know, every generation reassesses the past in the light of its own experience. And that's been a feature all over the world. And that's how history is always studied. There are facets of Jawaharlal Nehru which call for a certain review, which call for certain re-examination. And many of these, particularly his policies towards the economy, some aspects of his foreign policy, these are aspects which have been constantly brought under a certain new gaze. And in the process, there are certain sharp words which are exchanged. But I think what is important to know is not to get into the rhetoric of the whole thing, but to realize Jawaharlal Nehru was a very important figure in his time. Now, many years after, 50 years after his death, I think there are times when you cannot hold those assumptions which Nehru held to be sacrosanct any longer. And I think that's precisely what is happening. So a lot of things are being questioned.
But is it just about that? When a union minister, law minister, Kiran Rijiju, for example, talks about Nehru's alleged 5 blunders on Jammu and Kashmir, goes public with that, do you believe that is, in a way, using your office, your constitutional office, you're a law minister, to target a former prime minister? Is that the way you believe Nehru should be assessed? He should be assessed by scholars. Why should he be assessed by politicians through their political lens?
I think there are ways of assessing him. The scholars assess him. It's also assessed in a political sort of way, where there's a sharp exchange of rhetoric. Now, there are aspects of Jawaharlal Nehru's Kashmir policy, which certainly have been brought under re-examination by this present government, the abolition of Article 370 and 35A being one of them. The way you've really taken it out of the international arena is another way. The manner in which the internal issues are being dealt with another way. So you can see that aspects of Jawaharlal Nehru's Kashmir policy have been dismantled. So I would say quite straightforward, it has been dismantled.
Okay.
Now, you may like it, you may dislike it, but that's the reality of the whole situation. Now, in the process, if someone goes into sharp rhetorical flourishes, that's part of, it's par for the course. That's not something which you should take seriously, and that's not something which would be the final word on the subject. Yes, scholars will assess Nehru. Yes, ordinary people will also assess Nehru. And I think there will be a happy mingling or unhappy mingling of both the trends.
Mridula Mukherjee, you want to respond, because there was a sense that on the flip side, if the BJP is accused of diminishing or demonizing Nehru, the Congress for the longest time is accused of deifying him, of reducing, of elevating him almost into a godlike figure, where the moment the BJP says anything about Nehru or anyone says something critical about Nehru, the Congress's hackles are raised.
I wish what you said was true. I'm sorry. I mean, most of the time, Congress, I think, takes far too long to even respond to fairly devastating demonization of its national figures. I don't think that's true at all. I think that what Swapan Dasgupta is saying, nobody can object to sober reassessments of historical figures. But I think what we've been seeing is not just demonization, but, whatever words you want to use, vilification. I mean, Amit Malviya, the head of the IT cell, actually tweeted pictures of Nehru with different women, most of whom were his close relatives like Vijay Lakshmi Pandit and Nayantara Sehgal and other public figures whom he was receiving like Jacqueline Kennedy, trying to suggest that he was a womanizer and vested. I mean, the level at which the vilification, demonization, whatever word you use is not strong enough, has been going on for the last 2 years, is shocking, and nobody can defend it. I think we must start with that. There's a big difference between reassessing, and let me also say Nehru has been criticized from the time that he was Prime Minister, even before that. It's not that Nehru's never been criticized, he's been criticized sharply. His China policy was criticized in Parliament by the doyens of that period, where somebody, I forget who said that, just because there's no hair on your head, should we give it up? Because Nehru had said that there's no grass grows on that part which China has taken over. So in Parliament, outside Parliament, Nehru was criticized all along. I don't think that's the point. I think there is a big difference between hero worship, demonization, vilification, and whether it is political leaders like the Minister Riju or the Prime Minister himself, who in Parliament a few years ago, I remember, said publicly that Nehru was responsible for the partition of India. Now, such a complex thing as the partition of a country, to pick up one man, hold him responsible. Somebody says Gandhi is responsible, another says Nehru is responsible. We all forget about the British who were responsible. Somebody doesn't like them and says Jinnah is responsible. We reduced all historical debates to a level of inanity that is embarrassing for us historians, and I'm sure it embarrasses Swapan Dasgupta as well. He's a good historian.
Does it embarrass you, Swapan Dasgupta, the inanity which Mridula Mukherjee claims the debate has been reduced to, that complex issues of historical figures are not being reassessed, but are being used as instruments to further political agendas today? You demonize Nehru because Nehru stood up to the notion of a Hindu Rashtra.
No, it's not merely that. I mean, Nehru had a certain view of secularism, which is being contested at various levels, which is, I think, fine. It's part of the political exchange which is taking place in the country. When you get into mediums such as Twitter and all that, which is by inherently abrasive, and combative. I don't think you should assess a public discourse from what is said in a street corner meeting. That's not how public, how the discourse, an intellectual discourse should be assessed. Those sort of that sort of conspiracy level of history has always existed and will continue to exist. I mean, it has its role, but I don't think that's something which we should take extremely seriously. I think far more important is to realize that, yes, Jawaharlal Nehru was an important figure of our time. Jawaharlal Nehru held certain assumptions, certain principles of state policy, which Congress swore by, and these have been gradually overturned by the BJP, which has a very, very different perspective.
Actually, the Congress overturned his economic.
There has been a critique of Jawaharlal Nehru, and there has been a critique of Jawaharlal Nehru, and that critique is justified.
Okay, Mridula Mukherjee, many will say, as Swapan Dasgupta just said, that there is a need for a honest critique of Nehru. Mistakes that Nehru made need to be assessed, which for a long time the belief were not being looked at with a microscope. Now with a new government, which perhaps is opposed to the whole notion of a Nehruvian ideology, it's open season.
Rajdeep, I'm glad that's not the way historians and professionals work. They don't wait for new governments to come to reassess historical figures. We do our job as good professionals. We don't wait for the BJP to come to power to critique Nehru or Indira Gandhi for that matter. Of course, all historical figures make great mistakes, and some make them more than others. I don't think that's the point. To say that there's been no serious critique of Nehru till today, I think it's just false. It's just not true. And just to make the point, the 1991 reforms carried out by the Congress under Narasimha Rao, started by Rajiv Gandhi, in fact, starting more or less towards the end of Indira Gandhi's period, were a reversal of some of the fundamental Nehruvian policies on the economy, because that change needed to be made.
Are you saying, Mridula Mukherjee, that Nehru needs to be assessed in the times in which we lived, rather than looking at him through a rear view mirror 75 years later? Is that what you're arguing?
When Nehru did what he did, when he brought in the mixed economy, that was the need of the age. Indian capital did not have the resources to build those big steel plants and the kind of industry that we needed. So he brought in the public sector. By 1991, we and the world were at a different stage of economic development. The economic wisdom had changed. So we changed. The Congress party also changed. And today we are reassessing that, trying to find a greater balance, because also after the meltdown of 2008, everybody also realizes that somewhere liberalization had gone too far. So this is a constant process. Therefore, in history, we don't look for villains and heroes. That's not our job. We assess historical characters the way they should be, in the context of their times, with the perspective that we acquire over time as well. It's a constant process. It's an ongoing dialectical process.
But you see, the thing, Swapan Dasgupta, is perhaps Nehru is looked at even more closely with a magnifying glass by the BJP, not just because he opposed at every level a Hindu Rashtra very strongly, but also because his heirs today control the Congress party. In a sense, Nehru's, the sins of Nehru's heirs are being sort of shifted to Pandit Nehru himself, that anything that his heirs did wrong is being then used to sort of suggest Nehru was responsible, even though, remember, Lal Bahadur Shastri succeeded Nehru and not Indira Gandhi. So Nehru did not, many would argue, consciously promote Indira Gandhi and the dynasty that followed.
Yeah, look, the point is very simply this, that in political discourse, as opposed to academic discourse, there are always the need to have villains and heroes and things, straw figures, etc. That's the nature of politics. You were seeing a very interesting debate, for instance, in the United Kingdom about Churchill. about the vilification of Churchill and the deification of Churchill. It's part of a larger thing about where Britain stands in the contemporary world. Similarly, you have a thing about Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru is being used as a symbol to fight battles which are basically contemporary in nature. And that's part of the political discourse. And separate that from a sense of history or how the historians or scholars may want to debate Jawaharlal Nehru, assess Jawaharlal Nehru. And I think you've got to separate the two all the time. And I think there's nothing wrong in both sets of battles being fought.
Mridula Mukherjee, a final word. In a sense, the political battle today is the Nehru-Gandhi family versus the Modi-led government. Therefore, Nehru gets automatically tangled in a way no other historical figure will. And you've got to accept it. It comes with the territory. And it's political.
Well, I think it goes much beyond that, frankly, and I'm sure Chopin agrees. The comparisons he's making about Churchill and all that, I think we all know the levels to which this Nehru vilification has gone on in India, and to say just ignore it is not. WhatsApp is a part of the political, weaponry today. Twitter is part of that, and these are very powerful tools today through which images are sent to people. I just gave one example of vilification. Actually, the kind of stuff that's there, no, Churchill has never been subjected to that kind of thing. Churchill's ancestry has not been questioned. It doesn't say he had a Muslim mother, his mother was a prostitute. I don't even want to go into it. Then that is not the level of politics which we should sanction anyway, anywhere. I'm sorry.
Maybe the times in which we live, maybe in the post-truth times in which we live, where alternative facts are sometimes posed as historical facts.
May I just say one thing, Rajdeep?
Yes.
Just the final thing. There was a museum of prime ministers which has been set up. Jawaharlal Nehru has got a very, very fair treatment in that. I think there will be nobody who's taken objection to the fact that his contribution from 1947 to 1964 has been faithfully recorded, and it's up to people to appreciate, to critique it, etc. But I must tell you this, that at least in India, we don't tar the statues of Jawaharlal Nehru wherever they may be. We don't change the names of Jawaharlal Nehru's things. Churchill has had to have armed guards and put a box on his statue in Westminster Square. So that's that's a sort of level at which people fight in the West. I think by and large, if we are having battles on Twitter, and there's some ridiculous conspiracy theories, I think that's it's nothing to get particularly upset about.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Mridula Mukherjee, Swapan Dasgupta, appreciate your joining me here on the news today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a break on that point. On the other side, a good news today story. It comes from Nagrota in Jammu and Kashmir. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories. From every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Tonight's Get Real India story, the shocking and brutal ragging video in Hyderabad that took social media by storm has now led to several arrests. The video of a student in Hyderabad has gone viral, showing him being beaten up and forced to chant religious slogans. A few of the students, including a minor, have been taken into police custody. The rest are still on the run. Interestingly, the students who have been arrested cut across all communities, Muslims and Hindus, both who were responsible for what happened in Hyderabad, unlike social media, which has pushed it as a Hindu-Muslim narrative. Take a look.
Jai Mata Di, Allahu Akbar. Jai Mata Di, Allahu Akbar.
A student brutally and violently bullied, made to chant Allahu Akbar and Jai Mata Di. This shocking video has emerged from Hyderabad's ICFAI Business School, where a student was threatened with violence by a group of bullies.
We gotta fix this nigga's ideology, bro. We'll beat him to a coma, he'll remember a whole new world. We'll beat him to a coma, he'll remember a whole new world.
This incident has triggered widespread outrage, and 12 students, including the victim, have been suspended by the authorities. The victim was targeted after he reportedly made comments against the Prophet. 8 arrests have been made so far, with a separate case also being filed against the management over the handling of the case, and allegations that they tried to hush up the case.
वो मैनेजमेंट वाला हमारे को वो बच्चा वो इमाम बिस्वाल उनको कंप्लेंट करे, उन्होंने इन टाइम हमारे को कंप्लेंट करना उन्होंने नहीं करे, हम वो एस्पेक्ट में इंक्वायरी करे, इन्वेस्टिगेशन करे, उसका भी थोड़ा नेग्लिजेंस है, उसका ऊपर भी केस रजिस्टर है, केस रजिस्टर करे मैम.
The incident has led to a political fight, with the BJP alleging a communal angle.
What are you gonna say? Say something.
The incident of ragging and making a student to render Allahu Akbar is not only an act of ragging, but it is an act of certain elements who are trying to disturb the university atmosphere. So-called leftist students and the jihadi students have repeated such type of incidents earlier in Hyderabad Central University and elsewhere in the state and in the country.
This, in fact, mentality is being seen of late in our educational institutions because of the environment which has been vitiated in our country after the BJP government came into power. Otherwise, we never used to have these kind of incidents in our educational institutions. It is really disturbing.
Authorities have, however, completely dismissed the communal twist, making it clear that the victim was made to chant several slogans and the accused are not from just one community.
Jai Mata Di, Allahu Akbar. Jai Mata Di, Allahu Akbar.
India Today tried to reach out to the victim, who reportedly has now left Hyderabad and is back in his hometown in Punjab. The Hyderabad hostel assault has led to serious questions of the college management, who waited a whole 10 days before cracking the whip on the students. With Abdul Bashir, Bureau Report, India Today.
Take off all the money you want.
Unacceptable behavior there, and we hope that the strongest punishment will be given. We apologize for some of those pictures that might have been disturbing. Let's turn then to our good news story, the story of Seema Devi, the first woman e-rickshaw driver from Jammu and Kashmir. She's breaking stereotypes, glass ceilings. Seema Devi has been receiving accolades for making her own mark in what was considered a male-dominated field of work. Take a look.
A homemaker from Nagrota has become the first woman e-rickshaw driver in Jammu and Kashmir. Seema Devi, a mother of 3, decided to drive an e-rickshaw to help her husband, who is a government worker.
ये ई रिक्शा सर मेरे हस्बैंड ने मतलब स्कीम की कि चलो उनको किसी ने बताया कि मोदी साहब ने बहुत अच्छा स्कीम निकाली है कि इसको थोड़े पैसे देके हम किस्तों पे ले सकते हैं. तो सर ये मेरे हस्बैंड ने लेके आए तो सर जैसे कि मैंने बोला कि मैं नौकरी की बहुत कोशिश करी मगर सर मुझे नौकरी नहीं मिली, तो सर 2 दिन के अंदर अंदर मेरे हस्बैंड ने सिखाया और ये सर मैं चलाने लगी।
For Seema, driving an e-rickshaw is no mean feat. In the initial days, Seema says she was mobbed and harassed, but her family supported her.
पहले मैंने भी थोड़ी अपने हस्बैंड से आनाकानी की थी कि लोग दुनिया क्या कहेंगे, क्योंकि हमारा ये नगरोटा टोक बजीर पड़ता है, एक गांव है जहाँ पे मैं अपने जेठों से मुंह ढकती हूँ। तो सर मैंने भी आनाकानी की अपने घर वाले से। मैंने बोला जेठ देवर देखेंगे तो क्या बोलेंगे। बोलते जेठ देवरों ने घर में आटा नहीं डाल के जाएंगे, हमें ही डालना है। जब रिक्शा चलाती है कोई सामने आ जाए मुंह ढकने वाला, मुंह मत ढकना।
She was recently felicitated by the local authorities. She has become an inspiration for many women in Nagrota.
Breaking stereotypes, 36-year-old Seema Devi has become the first woman e-rickshaw driver in Jammu. Her decision to venture into a male-dominated profession will not only inspire other women but will also help in changing the conservative mindset of the society. With video journalist Neeraj Kumar, this is Sunil Bhatt reporting from Jammu for India Today. Lovely story there, and may that tribe increase. Our image of the day, a video of a Tesla model in China that's gone rogue, trying to park at one end of the street. The Tesla instead takes off in full speed and killed 2 people. CCTV footage showed a Tesla Model Y speeding down the road at an alarming high speed, hitting numerous cyclists and drivers along the way before crashing. That is a rather saddening image that we leave you with tonight, a viral video that has shocked the world. You stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
हर पल आपके साथ।
Pandit Nehru put agenda first and India second. Union Law Minister Kiran Rijiju's frontal attack on independent India's first Prime Minister. On Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's 133rd birth anniversary. The Law Minister highlights what he calls are 5 historical blunders of Nehru on Jammu and Kashmir. Law Minister says Prime Minister Narendra Modi rectified Nehru's blunders on Kashmir. Law Minister says Modi put India first. Law Minister exclusive is our top focus on India first.
Strong words from the Union Law and Justice Minister of India, Kiran Rijiju, accusing independent India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, of 5 historical blunders on Kashmir that continued to cost this country for 7 decades. Kiran Rijiju insists those 5 blunders have been rectified only now by Prime Minister Narendra Modi by defanging Article 370 in 2019. I spoke to Kiran Rijiju about what he terms are 5 historical blunders of Pandit Nehru on Kashmir, from delaying the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to calling that accession provisional to approaching the United Nations and perpetrating the myth of plebiscite and then bringing in Article 370. We get you that big India Today exclusive. I'm Gaurav Sawant as always. Let's get started with the headlines on India First. Shocking murder in the national capital. 27-year-old girl Shraddha killed by her live-in partner Aaftab, body chopped in 35 pieces, stored in a refrigerator, disposed of across the city over 18 days. Aaftab is now in police custody. Supreme Court says forced conversions are a matter of concern and can impact national security. Directs the centre to file an affidavit listing measures to curb forced conversions. NCP leader Jitendra Awad lands in another controversy. FIR filed for alleged sexual assault on a woman. He resigns as MLA to protest what he calls is a witch hunt. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Indonesia to attend the G20 summit. He will formally take over as India's G20 chairman for 2023. In 45 hours, he will have 20 engagements in Bali. First face-to-face meeting between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping at the G20 summit. The two leaders meet for about 3 hours, discuss the Russia-Ukraine war and the Taiwan tussle. Union Law and Justice Minister Kiran Rijiju has upped the ante against independent India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, on his 133rd birth anniversary, insisting Pandit Nehru put his political and personal interest before India's national interest on the issue of accession of Jammu and Kashmir. Union Law and Justice Minister Kiran Rijiju now joins me for more on this big political debate. Mr. Rijiju, that's a very serious charge that you have levelled against Pandit Nehru. How did Pandit Nehru put political interest or personal interest before national interest, as you put it, sir?
First of all, today is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's birthday. He was our first Prime Minister and I pay my tributes to him. And as a part of the democratic system in which we are working, nobody should stand above criticism. Whatever has been done, if it is wrong, we should correct it, we should admit it. If anything good has been done, we should appreciate it. When it comes to the issue of Kashmir, we all are concerned because Kashmir has been an issue which has caused so much of loss, so much of pain, so much of tragedy for too many people.
Okay.
And looking at the history, it is very important that the facts of the history must be put before the people of the country. So what I have done is simply telling the truth to the country. All the records, all the papers which I have quoted are well before the people. Anybody who disputes these facts can go back to the records of the parliament and check it by themselves. So I have not stated anything on my own. I have not distorted the history. Rather, I have put the facts of the history before the nation.
Okay. Sir, let's take this step by step and one by one. You quote from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's Lok Sabha speech from 1952 to say that the question of accession first came up before him in July 1947, before independence, but of course, informally. So was it only Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's blunder, as you put it, or was it a collective failure of the then cabinet and government?